This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to this edition of Data Points with Jamie Gates. I'm Roby Brock. Jamie writes for us once a month with a analysis column on things that are happening statistically in Arkansas. We got great response off of your first one. Good to see you again.
All right,
first
well, that's
of all.
good to hear.
So, yeah, no, it was good. You've got a new column out now, and you're talking about some of this skilled labor gap that we seem to hear a lot about. Let's kind of start with the premise that for a couple of years now, I've been hearing from mostly chamber officials and business people that we have a bunch of job openings in Arkansas. Why do we have so many job openings in Arkansas?
Well, it's really a national issue, and I would caution you on how much you listen to those chamber guys. But we do have a lot of job openings. We have 450 or 500 in my town of Conway alone, and we've got probably 100,000 across the state. There's a lot of reasons. One, the economy is really blowing and going. We've got a lot of people working. And two, we have a lot of people retiring as the baby boomers are retiring, in part because of a really good stock market, in part just because of age and it's time to take it to the house. And that leaves us with a lot of work to be done and less people to do it.
Yet we have low unemployment. So what am I missing here? We got low unemployment. We got a lot of jobs. Where are the people going to come from to fill those jobs?
That's a really good question. And there's all of this conversation taking place about, will there even be jobs in the future because of AI and robots? To some of these employers, they would probably tell you the robots can't get here soon enough because we do have a lot of openings. One stat, you look at 2013 to now, Arkansas has almost 90,000 more people working than we did in 2013. It's a 7% increase in the size of the workforce, but our population's only increased by 2%. Yeah. So we're down, we're through the muscle to the bone.
Yeah, well, and that was, you're talking about 2013 would be the tail end of the Great Recession and the recovery that came after that when we had unemployment as high as 10% in the state of Arkansas. So there was room for it to work its way down. How do we close the gap now at 3.5% unemployment to fill almost 100,000 job openings?
I think it's got to be an all fronts war. And one thing that the article we kind of take head on is this, what is really a myth that, it's somehow young people's fault that we have a shortage in skilled trades, or that the shortage in skilled trades is more drastic or dramatic or important than the shortage in jobs that require a lot of education. We are at no risk of having a lot of unemployed poets and philosophers running around Arkansas anytime soon. And just as a rule, the more education that you can successfully pursue, the more it's going to pay off over the life of your career.
Yeah, we hear a lot about college debt, though, and that becomes kind of part of that equation and part of that conversation. But statistically, you make about $30,000 more per year with a 4-year degree than if you do not have a 4-year degree. And you add that up over the course of a lifetime, that's a significant amount of money that more than pays for that college education.
Absolutely. The worst college debt is the debt that doesn't come with a credential or a diploma at the end. So debt and no payoff, that's going to be bad. The other thing that we dive into is there is some urban legend. Social media is great at promulgating this stuff, but the wage expectations for skilled trades like welders, plumbers, truck drivers, all things that we have a huge need for. But, we try to rightly set folks' expectations on what you can make in those jobs. You're looking at some of the statistical
data that's out there from the Labor Department, basically, from information that's provided. And what do you see in terms of what those jobs pay on average?
I use this a lot. It's about what you would expect if you really sat and thought about it. The median wage for those jobs is something close to $40,000, which is a good wage. But when you have that guy at the Thanksgiving table telling you, a welder make $100,000, that's a pretty special welder who found himself in a really special circumstance.
So there are welders and truck drivers and plumbers who can make $100,000 a year, but you're telling me that's just not the everyday common man, common person, average Joe salary?
That is an exception, a rare exception to the rule. And frequently when you find those skilled trades, and again, we touch on this in the article, when you find someone practicing a trade, making that kind of wage, they have either over time acquired the skills, over a lot of time, years, required the skills to grow a business. And, we have a line in there that when you marry kind of a ability in these skilled trades with the foundation that comes from an education, frequently a business education, it's a recipe for entrepreneurship. And that's when people really can see their earnings take off. They can see wealth created. They can start hiring and borrowing. But all that stuff is really risky if you go into it not knowing how to read a financial statement.
So how do we kind of control the pipeline, what you're talking about there? You got to steer some people with a particular skill set, or some people that are not going to be poets and philosophers, as you say, but do need to be in something that is a little bit more of either a skilled trade or a professional career where there's opportunities for growth and advancement, short of a dictatorship. I mean, how do you, because people get to make choices for what they want to do. So how do you navigate that and make sure that where these openings are occurring, that you can steer people into those silos where they'll have an opportunity and we will meet some of the demand that's out there?
I think you really kind of summed up the reason I'm excited about this entire series is we do need to let people make their own choices, but those choices have to be driven with good information. And you need the whole story. A lot of these jobs in skilled trades, there's a physical aspect as to what your peak earning really is. There's this vocational, do I enjoy this? Am I going to be any good at this? There's questions about the dignity of work and all of these things that go into it, but you really shouldn't plot a course for yourself without having all of the information that you have on the front end. That said, economies are volatile, they change, and one thing that won't change is that everyone who wants to sustain themselves with a living wage has to be prepared to continue their education. Sometimes that's on the job and you're getting paid for it, but a lot of time it's going to mean dipping out, gaining that extra credential to separate yourself or prepare yourself.
Where do unions play a role in all this? Unions used to be much stronger in this country. I mean, we've seen a decades-long decline of unions. That's where a lot of the skilled trades and a lot of the skilled labor used to be taught, quite frankly, and then brought up through the apprenticeship programs. We don't seem to have as robust of a union training program as we once did in this state. Do you think that's been to the detriment of these job openings that we have now?
I haven't thought about how that role specifically might be played by unions, but when you're I think no matter what career path you choose, you're going to have to be intentional. It's frustrating to hear someone say, why go to college when you could just become an electrician? Thankfully, we live in a place where you can't just be an electrician. You need to know what you're doing before you hurt yourself or hurt someone else. And to become a master electrician, which is that salary people like to dangle in front of you, you're looking at a 6-year process, and you're not looking at something, it's technical. It requires a lot of formal education. That may not be in a classroom setting, but it is, it's absolutely technical, intentional, and formal. And the payoff is there, but it's because you've put in a lot of time and study to gain that skill.
All right, the column is Data Points with Jamie Gates. You can catch it monthly at talkbusiness.net, and so check it out online. Jamie, good to see you.
You bet.
All right,
thanks.
Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us. Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.